Hi everyone. Welcome to Stay Current, a panel on the potential of electrical design. I'm Sandra, I'm the editor of Denfair, and with me today are Mark Jeisman? I covered all the bases.
You got it right the first time, fantastic.
And Xavier Lifran from Clipsal by Schneider Electric, who happen to be our major program sponsor for the speaker series. So they've made all of this possible. Now, this topic may feel a little specialised for some. Never fear, we've got your back. And I'll be the first one to admit total technical ineptitude. Not to talk myself down, but let's just say that it's a good thing.
I'm the second one on that topic.
So oh, you're the second one. All right. Maybe we need someone else on this panel then. No, it's a good thing that my phone is so smart, because the person using it would have not a clue how to program it if I was left to my own devices, quite literally. But isn't that interesting how these days we expect our devices to be totally intuitive, touch-sensitive, idiot-proof interfaces? It used to be quite usual to have to read instructions before using a video camera, for example. Now, iPads are even easy enough for pre-verbal toddlers to work out. And that shift has become quite normal in the context of our handheld tech. But when we compare that to the design of our houses and buildings, we still have a ways to go. So this talk will explain how it's actually possible for our buildings to be as responsive to your needs as your phone is, that I'm using now. Not only can we automate thermal settings and lighting levels, but we can also tailor the experience of our built environment to our specific needs. And I think what's crucial to note is that while these technological advances are fun and futuristic, I guess, in theory, tools like voice control are already making a real positive impact in areas like assisted living. So there is quite a potential for design to enhance and improve conditions for people as well. It's cheaper in the long run and more environmentally responsible to be able to integrate our tech with our spatial design. And architects and designers, such as yourselves, are at the forefront of this potential. So I will let Mark and Xavier explain how. My first question to you is to just tell me about your roles at Clipsal.
Okay, so you got my name right the first time, fantastic. Yeah, so Mark Jeisman, Clipsal by Schneider Electric. I'm a business development manager. I've worked in the industry for about 35 years, working alongside architects, designers, and boutique builders, putting technology together with buildings, working with the clients, how they live, and interacting with the building. So I guess I have a fair, probably understanding of what you go through day to day. And now I'm with Clipsal and working with bringing some of these technologies to the market. And Xavier is, of course, our design director guru, but I'll let him fill you in on what he does from a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So I'm the idiot-proofing guy in Clipsal by Schneider Electric. So if I understand things are good to release, so I'm in charge of design and ergonomic. So most of my work is try to simplify things and make it easy to understand, easy to use. And yeah, that's so Mark is a smart guy. We've got lots of engineers that are doing the smart things, but we try to make this useful and easy to use.
But you make it humanistic, and that's what we need in today's age.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I guess to both of you, how have both of you seen the application of smart home technology change in the last 10 years?
If I can take that one first. Look, absolutely. Probably 10 years ago, smart home technology was probably working in around the top 5% of boutique homes. And it was, if you like, it was a very Hollywood approach to it. So it was around one-touch lighting, it was around the audio-visual working together, really giving that nice experience. It was a management system. You know, some of these projects, as you know, you might have 40 motorised blinds. I guess over the last 10 years, as you alluded to before, cost, the complexity of the technology, it's gotten a lot simpler, and there's a lot more available. So the drivers in the market, though, are quite interesting. Whilst we can still do the Hollywood approach, and that's great, and it's great about convenience, we're seeing now common pain factors and points that we all have around things like energy prices, power prices. So smart home technology and the demand for it is starting to become common to everyone. So for example, I mentioned power prices. How can we deal with that? We can use technology to do that. So we're seeing, because of that price shift, because of that common pain we experience, but we're also seeing elevated security for all of us at home being a factor. So technology is starting to be almost a requirement for all homes and for everyone in some sort of way. So the drivers are probably shifting more from that sort of convenience, and we've sort of skewed it around the other way a little bit.
And for you, Xavier?
Yes, so for me the interesting thing is that now we can do about anything with technology. So it's quite amazing. Each time I ask a question to our engineers, they almost say yes, we can do that. So I think the next job is for you, interior designer, to get to know what to do with the technology. So get to know what is the usage for the customer you are serving. And please dream, because we've got a network of eco-experts. We've got CBUS technology, that is a 25 years old technology, but that can do many, many things. So it's just about asking the question and finding the use cases and make life simpler. And so it can be very complex and Hollywood style, like you say, with energy management, monitoring the energy of any PowerPoint, or the installation of your EV charging car being used as a battery backup instead of blackout. Like, we can do so many things, it's incredible. But what is useful is what we need to work at now, and that will be the next challenge. So yeah, how can we make the living easier for people getting older? How can we make a home safer? How can we make a home more interesting?
Well, I think Sandra touched on it beautifully before. Voice control, and pre that, iPads and iPhones and smartphones with apps have probably made it more approachable to everyone more than anything. So it's really paved the way and lowered the barriers into making technology approachable and affordable.
Absolutely. And one small point, because I mean, maybe everyone does know, but I certainly could use a bit of unpacking around the term CBUS technology.
So I guess this is flying the Clipsal flag here, because CBUS is a Clipsal product. So it's effectively a home automation system that was innovated here in Australia 25 years ago. We're celebrating 25 years of CBUS. And look, I can't think of too many technologies in the home and the commercial space that have been around for 25 years and are absolutely valid today as they were 25 years ago. You may be surprised to learn not only private homes that CBUS has gone into over all these years, but the high-profile commercial sites, the Sydney Olympic Stadium, the Manchester Stadium in the UK. We've got places like, from my hometown, Subiaco Oval, the AFL Oval.
No, it's all about Adelaide Oval, right?
Adelaide, sorry, yeah. So over the years, it's a system that has provided a very robust quality management system. It's provided, and you can see some of the images on the screen here of projects in Australia with our technology, CBUS technology. But moving forward, as we demand energy efficiency, as we demand different things from our homes, the way we use our homes, the technology is adaptable. It's also backward compatible. Now, what I mean by that is we can go back to a home that was done 25 years ago, and we can change, we can adapt, we can add new things. In today's technology age, you can't do that with many technologies. And in fact, a lot of companies aren't actually around for more than 25 years.
It's true, yeah.
We celebrate 100 years next year in Australia with Clipsal, and our parent company, Schneider Electric, is around 180, about that. So we're going to be around in a few years.
Yeah, right, wow. Okay, so we're hearing the term connected buildings a lot more. Could you explain a little more around that topic? And also, related, maybe the Internet of Things. I think we also hear that term quite a lot.
Yeah, lots of buzzwords around at the moment.
Yeah.
Digital buildings,
Yeah.
connected buildings. Look, yeah, IoT, Internet of Things, lots of buzzwords, as I say. These are really a collection of smart devices, systems in our homes, in our commercial buildings that are connected together and generally connected to the internet to give us benefit in lots of different ways in our buildings. And look, I guess years ago we went back and what it was like 10 years ago, a lot of it was a nice to have. These days, it's pretty well mandatory. We talk about things like critical infrastructure in homes, people putting in battery storage, PV cells on our roofs, and why wouldn't you in Australia? Battery chargers, EV chargers for electric vehicles. All these things are becoming infrastructure in our homes and our buildings. So that data is very important. Now, we're also connecting our buildings together. You all are involved with things like smart cities. So we're starting to get benefits of things like understanding how our buildings work, how we work inside our buildings, how we live inside our buildings. Collecting that data and sensors are going to be, you'll hear sensors a lot more in the future in buildings, tracking things like oxygen, carbon dioxide, noxious gases, humidity, these sorts of things. That allows us to alter the building and improve quality of life, quality of productivity in workspaces, for example. This is going to explode in the next few years like you would not believe. So to give an example, last year we commissioned a study in Australia with our partners Telsite. And we determined in the average Australian home today, around about 20 connected devices in the average home. And I can see a few of you going, Apple TV, iPad, CCTV cameras. Work it out later, you'll get to around 20. So next 3 years, guess what the figure's going to be, roughly? Try double, about 37 odd devices. So this puts demands on infrastructure in our homes.
Yeah. And so to that point, most of what you're talking about is wireless and we're moving that way. Maybe Xavier can take this one. Do we still need wiring? What is the role that wiring plays? And as designers, how do we think about that?
That's a very good question. I love wireless when it's working. And I love wire because it's always working.
Yeah.
So sometimes the simplicity is wire, sometimes the simplicity is wireless,
Yeah.
and there's no overarching principle. It's really like, again, if you work in a building the scale of Adelaide Oval, wireless is not that reliable. And when you have public attending a building, you need to be very reliable.
Mm-hmm.
So then C-bus with a wire is probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
But when you are in a residential home, again, we have not only C-bus, so we just launched with Iconic Bluetooth base where you don't need internet, it's just one-to-one with a phone. And that's very good too. And it's reliable for a room, for a house. So it depends on the scale of the project. And again, the best is to ask the specialist, the technical guy. But there's not that many, there's not a principle that wireless is simpler. Like wireless induction charging is very bad for a phone.
Is it?
It's the dream. The dream is best because it's very easy. You put your phone there, but it's not working. But then it's becoming working for a car because it's higher power and so really you need to ask experts about these technologies because they are big principle that looks fancy, but it's sometimes very fancy stuff. So
if I could put some perspective around that to give you an example that we perhaps could all relate to. Who here watches Netflix? Okay, pretty good. Now, to give you an example of that, as I mentioned, it's really a hybrid approach around wireless and wired technologies. There's actually a saying, going wireless actually means more wires. And there's a reason for that I'll come back to in a moment. Look, they both have benefits. Mobile devices in our homes, in our buildings, small devices benefit from wireless. And it can work really well. As Xavier alluded to, wires are always on, always working. Now, last month, Samsung released a brand new TV in Australia, the first 8K TV, so 8K meaning the resolution. Years ago, you would have seen 4K TVs, right? And we all thought, that's in the future. Well, probably most of us have 4K TVs right now, okay? Now, 8K TVs, it's happening, it's here, they're on the market. Netflix already are streaming content to our TVs, and they're doing this overseas, it'll come here shortly, 8K resolution to our TV. So, if you try to do that using Wi-Fi as an example, who with Netflix has ever had the buffering happen or on their Apple TV or on their iPad?
Yeah, usually before the suspenseful moment.
Exactly
about
right.
To happen.
How frustrating is it?
Yeah,
Who's
perfect.
Who's thrown their remote, the TV nearly a few times?
One or two.
Okay. If I had a cable connected to that, we would probably avoid those issues. Now, coming back to the 8K TV, the demands on wireless technology in our homes, imagine if I had one 8K TV in my living room, and in a few years, the kids had an 8K TV in the back games room, and Dad's in the garage streaming AFL on his iPad. Do you think wireless will support all of that? Maybe, maybe not. So why take the risk? So at home, it's about a bit of cabling, and it's about using wireless in the right way as well, and complementing some of the new technologies. So it's a balance of both. And it's also about the right project as well. I'm from West Australia, brick, tile, metal construction, double brick. A 3-story home is going to be challenged by wireless in some respects. So it, as Xavier rightly pointed out, it does come down to design, and we have specialist eco-experts that can actually help you and assist you with those sort of decisions.
That's a good point. You feel very fancy with your house. But I live in the top of Eiffel Tower, right? But very fancy, and it's all metallic construction, so it's very bad for wireless.
I didn't say my home was 3 levels.
So yeah, the technology is really here to deliver something. It's not to be fancy.
Yep.
And I think that's the real things need experts, and we've got eco-experts for that in our suppliers that work with us. We've got lots of competent people to help you out. So it's worth to have a little thought of what is good or what is bad. But really, as much as I love to have a speaker to speak to, if you have your internet not working, you don't want to rely on internet to switch on your lights. So real switch on the wall is great.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that Amazon speaker for voice control is not good. It's great for some things. But yeah, there's many things we can do, and I just love the idea of having a PowerPoint that is down on the ground or beyond the furniture. You cannot switch it off, so you put just a wire remote to the door where you are using the switches, and you can switch off your all PowerPoint from there. That's not high-tech, not fancy, but it's very comfortable and very interesting already. So there are many things you can do just simple. You can also do very complex things. And if you're architects, you've got big building like Eiffel Tower or Adelaide Oval, probably CBus is great, and you need to monitor the energy you spend, because we need to be conscious about energy spending if we don't want to be too hot in summer. Yeah. So there's a multiple layer in home automation, building automation, but sometimes it can be very simple or very complex.
Yep.
But it needs to be useful.
So I have a question to do with that. So if we look at the nuts and bolts of what you're talking about, obviously I think we're here because design community wants to be educated about these things, but then if you, at the coalface, try to get these things installed, how savvy is the average electrician, Sparky, going to be about this thing, and how do we talk about these smart technologies?
Well, that's why we come to Denfair, right? You speak technical things with electrician, and you speak about how to live within the building with the architect, right? That's the job of interior designer, of architect. It's not the job of electrician.
Yep.
So this is where we need to be having a design thinking process, and which room is designed for what. So what electrical appliance do you use? Where do you use them? Do I need to plug them every day, or do I need to plug them once upon a time? So if you have a socket down the ground, it's great if you forget it, but if you have to plug and plug your device every day, it's very bad. So put the power point up high. That's why we take care of making them look pretty. It's also about what is the best technology to do something. So if you got you do a small shop retail thing, it's all about experience, but you don't need switches. You can just do everything wireless if it's small.
Yep.
If you're a franchise, you've got 100 shops, it's a good idea to have Wiser and put everything in the cloud.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really depending on the scale of the project. But the thinking behind is a design thinking to make the shop comfortable, and really dream big because technology is there from simple to complex.
I think actually that's a really important point. And I know designers and architects, design community, like to be very self-sufficient because they own the project. You know, they've developed it. It's their baby, right? But I guess when it comes to technology, the important thing to recognise is actually help. So we really have actually now technology architects. So it's actually another profession, if you like. They're here to help all of you, and whether it's a smart electrician, as we kind of now call them, that get a little bit more involved with technology, through to our eco-experts. So it was raised before an eco-expert. So what's an eco-expert? So eco-experts are actually trained by Clipsal, and they work with our product very well, but also lots of other products, because we don't do it all. What they do understand, though, is the ability to implement that into a project and take in a lot of the design factors as well and support your vision. Look, I don't know about you, but I love wall clutter. Said nobody ever, right? I still go into projects and see, and beautiful homes, and I see on one wall, a feature wall, an air conditioning keypad, a light switch, a remote control screwed to the wall that's doing the 20 motorised blinds, maybe a remote shove there for the motorised louver windows that have just been put in the breezeways. Might be a couple of other things as well. And I'm just looking at it, just thinking, okay, if a conversation was had between the design professional, no fault of the design professional, because a technology architect could have looked at that and put one plate on the wall to do everything, a single pane of glass. So my point is, whether it's to do with what we're doing with battery storage and monitoring energy, recognise the technology is there to benefit the building and the occupants. Be empowered by the technology, not overpowered by it. And those eco-experts are there to assist you and work with you, help you document it. So there is a managed process in place of professionals that can help the design community through that.
Absolutely. I'm interested in that impact of technology that will have on your lifestyle, and how it's almost a reversal, that we need to actually think about what technology is available out there and how we could enhance it. Maybe you could speak to that point, Xavier?
Yes. So the question is, kind of what technology is there, and like, don't try to learn all the technology. There's too many. It's changing all the time. That would be the first one, except C-Bus that is there. But so yeah, for me, really leave that. So try to think about the usage of the building, where things are happening, and once you have that, contact an expert. And then ask question, and then maybe you can modify and increase. But if not, it's really complex.
Yeah,
and
it's
scary.
It is scary, and look, it's hard enough for us seeing a lot of technology every day coming onto the market. The reality is, 10% of those products that come onto the market, and 10% of those companies are usually only around after a couple of years. So as a design professional specifying something, do you want the latest and greatest, the new shiny toy? Or do you want something that's going to be supported for the life of the building? So what we're finding is that after a few trials and tribulations, we're seeing things like DIY products put into homes, luxury homes. And the guy in the shop told me it would all work together and that would connect to that and that would connect to that. And wonders why it doesn't work when it gets to the real world. Our clients, they just want it to work. They want to live in their home. It's got to be simple. It's got to look great. And it's got to be there for the life of the building, or pretty close to. And it's got to be upgradable. It's got to be scalable. So as we go down the path of technology, we're moving towards what we call a bit of an open society. So for example, we've talked about C-Bus. Our products work with other brands. You have a Panasonic air conditioner, no problem. You have a set of Somfy blinds, no problem. So we can't be too close to who we work with. We've got to be a bit more agnostic because at the end of the day, we don't know what you're going to specify. So we've got to do the best we can to bring everything together.
And so maybe with all this complexity, we have a good news for you. So we have a showroom in every city, every capital city in Australia. And this showroom can offer a service for you to help you specify. So you just have to turn out in the showroom, or, well, not exactly. You need to have an appointment.
Make an appointment.
They're a bit busy. So you make an appointment and you come with your floor plan, and they will help you go through room by room, position any electrical feature where you need it, where you want it, at the right height, at the right position on the floor map. They will give you out of that a bill of material, an idea of the cost, and you can go and find your electrician and get what you want. So electrical specification can be done in our showroom with we've got a software, we call that Clipsal, and it's really, really easy for you, and it really removes the hurdle of how to specify electricals. And they will know a lot of technology. They will advise you on what you can do, what you cannot do, the limit of everything. So that's probably the easiest way to go for now.
Yeah, it's a great starting point.
Absolutely. Now, a little bit of a technical question that I think everyone would probably appreciate that we can get maybe a CPD, a soft CPD point in for.
I love giving CPD points away. Okay, far away.
This is an unofficial one. This is not an endorsed one of any kind. But the National Construction Code 2019 has a raft of changes for commercial and residential compliant designs. So tell me how the smart technologies that you work with support sustainability goals and what kind of tech is available now.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I don't envy the position of architects and designers with this one. It's very onerous, the compliance that's involved, and for those of you who are across the code, it's pretty interesting. So if I talk to the commercial piece for a moment, because that's actually part of the code that's been mandated. And it says that every commercial building must have an energy meter, and that energy meter and information must be logged and tracked. Now that's a good start, but we actually now have other technology that we can put into the building. And you've probably heard about artificial intelligence. We spoke about smart speakers before. That's a type of artificial intelligence, where the building, we've got machine learning, data, big data, all these buzzwords that are going around. Basically, we can put sensors in and analytics that can give up to 30% reduction in energy usage in the building, just through technology. Now, I think it's actually 30% they've asked for in reductions. So just with technology alone, applied in the right way, that is possible before you talk about thermal, before you talk about aspect, all these sorts of things. So that's flying under the radar a little bit. For home, we can apply some of the same principles. So I talked about the drivers for automation and smart home technology. A lot of it is about education, understanding what power we're using, where we're using it, and how we're using it, taking that information and acting on it. Now, we can either do that manually. It could be us looking at an iPad. So we have a product called Wiser Energy. And on a simple app, it actually tells us how much energy we're using for the day, for the month. Now, that's great because education's key, right? Dollars and cents. It's very, very simple. Now, you could say, Johnny, don't leave the air conditioners on when we go down the beach. You know, it's not a good thing. It's not very sustainable. And it's costing us money. What if you had that automated and the automation system is taking care of that? You don't have to think about it. That's where we're going in our residential and our commercial buildings. So again, we talked about the Hollywood approach, but now we're getting down to actually saving money in the long run and obviously being sustainable.
Did you want to talk to that point, Xavier?
Yeah, and so it seems a bit scary how we need to save energy. It means we will live less comfortably, so it seems a bit boring. But actually, there's a lot of saving that are seamless and very interesting. Like we often switch on the light and it's like, whoosh, all the building is on. And there's no difference between the corridor, which is 6 meters away from the window, and the window side. And it's so simple to have just a light sensor that tell you, okay, you don't need to have this full on, you can dim down and save energy, and you don't need this energy, so don't use it. So there are very simple things that can be done and that are not painful and that make actually living more comfortable. So that's the good news with technology, I think.
I just had a thought, coming back to the commercial design for a minute, and someone came up and said to me, oh, just put LED lighting in, that'll meet the compliance. You know what? In some buildings it doesn't. So what we're now saying is not only is LED lighting obviously the way to go to reduce and get compliance, but now lighting control systems like CBus, like movement sensors, like dimmers, are actually now going to be mandatory to use in a lot of commercial environments. Residential doesn't have quite the same stringent compliance. It may head that way, and I believe the 2022 code, maybe 25, we'll look at that residentially. So what we're saying is, again, technology and the control of how we manage our buildings and our rooms is going to become pretty well essential.
I think what's interesting from my perspective is that I think there's still a perception that the technology that you can implement and live in a smarter way with is somehow a luxury and maybe something that, you know, oh, it's the future of this, and that, you know, it's so almost unattainable in a sense. But actually, it's helping you to live more responsibly and in using just the energy that you need. It's not an excess. It's not a luxury. It's actually quite a necessary way to live.
Yeah, and actually we've got the luxury and we also got the affordable. We've got it all.
I think Australia is absolutely paving the way in becoming self-sustainable, particularly from an energy point of view, or at least decentralising our energy. Again, we live in a sun-blessed country. Our solar uptake is amongst the best on the planet. And of course, as battery storage becomes cheaper and cheaper, we will start having potentially at home even excess power. Now, through that connected home technology, we'll be able to sell to our neighbours. And there's already trials in Australia of power trading between neighbours, as an example. So I think we can talk about years ago, it was kind of the nice to have, it was the Hollywood, as we said before. But now we're getting down to non-negotiable things, power. We're talking about moving into some other areas, and I know we talked about this before about wellness, and there's been some discussions in the last day or so about this on the stand. So we're getting into real tangible things that affect all of us, and hey, we live in great times, but technology is improving our quality of life across a raft of different areas.
We're getting on for time, so I'd like to begin winding down by asking the both of you, what are your non-negotiables in your home? Because I'm sort of envisioning both of your houses to be the most connected, places to live. But what for you is a non-negotiable? technology-wise, and what for you is a nice to have still?
All right, so I've got an old home, so the Eiffel Tower is very old, so I need to upgrade my garage. I need to put, so my mandatory one is a EV charger, so electrical vehicle charger in my garage. That will be the mandatory one, I think, very important.
So you get the priority car parking spot in Adelaide at the office?
Yes, of
very
course.
good. Well done.
And then my fuel is paid by my company because they have a charger on the car park.
Win-win.
Win-win.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And so that's one high in my priority list. I like another one which is just for the comfort of living. And people have been complaining about Apple phone keeping them awake. Because the screen is blue or whitish and it disturbs the sleep pattern. But I'm surprised nobody complained about electricity being LED white all the time. So for me, a must that save energy and that is actually very nice to live with is to have the circadian rhythm at home. Like not be like a chicken in a factory of chicken, like having the full light white all day long, right?
Yeah.
So having the house that is taking care of dimming slowly as the day goes down. So that is something really nice. So from white color to yellowish color.
Yeah, maybe we need that in here because I think it's nearly time for a drink. So
exactly,
we need to
it is way past 1 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely,
it's time to wind down.
So
you, Mark.
I just want to declare I don't have chickens, but look, for me, apart from my music, my audio system, and isn't it strange how, just as a side topic, the turntable is the only music source to ever make a comeback. And I think there's something in that tactile experience. So we live in a digital world, but we are analog beings. And I think it's that unique experience. But for me, I'm fortunate I have C-Bus installed in my house. I've had it in there for 10 years. And look, my day in going to work, for example, is walking out the door and actually not touching a light switch. All I do is arm my security. I can do it on my phone if I like. But my security tells my lighting system, hey, he's left. Switch off the heated towel rails. Switch off the lights. Switch off the exhaust fans. And I don't really worry about anything. If I'm home late, the garden lights are on. And if the security does happen to go off, it actually brings on my floodlighting around the outside of the house. So they're kind of really, basic things that I've got programmed. I've got a couple of nice scenes when I'm watching TV. I just push one button and that's adjusted about, 6 lighting circuits. So I'm not doing this, and this when I've got people coming over. Yep. So really simple, practical, day-to-day benefits. And that's what I love doing for homes like this. Because at the end of the day, we all got to live and we've got kind of different but similar things we want to do. So that's what I love about what we do is bringing that human connection, the humanistic qualities into beautifully designed homes and buildings.
And just to finish, we speak about all these fancy things, but we have a lot of work to do already just putting one socket on each wall. I mean, I am shocked in Australia to find a house with one switch, one socket per room. No wonder Australia invented the power board, right? So just before you do all the fancy stuff, do at least one socket per wall, please.
Good point. I think it's a good takeaway if we could take anything away from today. We do have some time for some questions and I can send the mic around for you. If you do have one, just pop your hand up.
Don't be shy.
Thanks. Hi. I was just wondering if that technology is on all the time, how does that not use so much electricity when it needs to turn off everything, but that's running all the time? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, great question. Look, definitely it's kind of a weird circular thing, isn't it? We're adding more technology and using more power. But look, what I would say, and probably Xavier agrees with me, as a manufacturer of that technology, today what we can do with so little power is quite incredible. Look, there are some devices that don't like to be switched off, usually a lot of home entertainment type devices. But we are getting better at doing a lot more with a lot less. Schneider, our parent company, because we do not just homes, but we do everything from the power point to the power station, we're very conscious of sustainability and energy and what we need to do to save energy. I think is it in the next 40 years we need like 2 or 3 times the amount of power, the amount of energy. So do we create more or do we create more efficient buildings? So great question. Look, technology will get us through that.
And that's a very difficult thing to answer, but the electronic today is really, really little, like micro amount of energy. So usually you save a lot more energy than you spend.
Okay, another question
Hi.
at the back.
Can you speak a little bit more about creating deep sleep through, typically it's meant to disturb sleep, or it's said to disturb sleep, all this technology. Can you speak a little bit more to creating deep sleep?
I know Xavier loves deep sleep, and I know he can talk around the blue light. One thing we didn't quite get to just on that before Xavier answers it, one of the emerging trends is biophilic design, bringing nature indoors, and particularly around high density buildings, office buildings. This is really pertinent. This is one of the new emerging areas. I won't talk about too much today, obviously we've run out of time, but that's around things like circadian rhythm lighting, mimicking a day in the life. So it comes back to the blue light thing, white light thing. So not only in our devices are people like Apple approaching that, but for example, coming back to C-bus technology, we actually are doing that now. So I'm involved with some studies in Perth with the universities where students, for example, later in the day, of course, are falling asleep. We've now installed circadian rhythm lighting and we're tracking productivity. And equally, in our commercial side of our business, we now have commercial products that we are actually installing that. But it's amazing, isn't it, light that can change how we respond and how productive we are. And
yeah, there's something nice about that. When we think about light, we think about electric light, right? And so I always say, but next to your bed, you need a switch for your light, to switch off your light. And in winter, you need the same switch to switch on because there's no sun. But in summer, you've got the sun. So I want a switch that opens my blind. And then you save energy. And it's nice to wake up with the sun rather than electrical light. So there are many simple things like that that you can do. And that can just make you happy and simple things to do.
As long as you don't have neighbours like looking into your window, I think that's probably not a great way to.
So there's blind that have a courtesy mode, so it's just let the sun in, but you cannot see through.
You
that's
thought
a
of
good
everything.
one. Yeah.
Thought of everything.
well, it's also going to heat the room as well in winter if you lift your blinds up during the day, and automation can help do that when you're not at home.
And again, automation, close down the blind when you leave, so you don't have your house heating up and spend energy in air conditioning. So I'm surprised if you want to do business, try to bring in some electrical blind for Australia. That's really big market.
Any more questions before we say goodbye to Xavier and Mark? Happy? All right. Well, thank you to the both of you for having a chat with us today and explaining things that I certainly had no idea about before we got here. And enjoy the rest of your night here.
Our pleasure. Thanks everyone for coming along.
Thank you.
It's wine o'clock.
It is wine o'clock.